All right, well, half term is finished and it was a fantastic week for us. I want to thank you, all those of you who served at Make Lunch over the last week. Thanks to the work of Nina, who did an incredible job in putting the whole thing together, and those of you that were able to take an hour off or a day off or be able to serve on 2 separate days. Those of you that prayed in support of us, we were able to feed an incredible 696 lunches we were able to provide last week, which is amazing for our tiny little gang. So thank you so much. All of you who served and prayed and cheered on, it was fantastic. And for our little gang to be responsible for feeding over 350 children and their families that came physically on the Tuesday and Thursdays, and then to provide lunch with a food bank for the other days that we weren't open on the Wednesday and the Friday is amazing. And I'm so proud of you. I know it was hard work for some of us, I know it was stressful for some of us, but amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to pick up real quickly on why we do that, and it's part of our little series that we're on focusing on Jesus. We're all about Jesus. You know that. We're not a gang that just likes getting together to eat pastries. We're not a gang that just thinks, oh, we should do some good in the world. Let's feed some other people who might be struggling for food. We're not just a gang who's motivated by just doing nice stuff. We're motivated by Jesus. We're inspired by Jesus. We're here because of Jesus. We have hope for tomorrow because of Jesus. The thing that we gather around isn't a thing, it's a one, it's Jesus. And so we're focusing on Jesus for a while, and it's all about Jesus. 2 weeks ago, we read through, if you're around on Sunday, we gathered together, we read through 2 chapters of the Bible, which we've never done before. And we saw how in Luke chapter 4 and 5, this guy Luke, who writes a diary account of his time hanging out with Jesus, or the time other people hung out with Jesus, he writes this diary account, and in Luke chapter 4, there's all these questions are around, do you recognize who Jesus is? And there's all these people that come up to Jesus, and the question is, do they recognize him as Lord? Do they recognize him as God? And so there's some people, there's a bizarre conversation between Jesus and the devil. There's all these townsfolk that come up to Jesus and they say, yes, we believe that you can heal. We believe that you are the restorer. We believe that you are the savior. And they come up to him and they bring the whole town and they gather around him and they ask for help. And then there's people who should have recognized Jesus but don't. They missed it, even though they're the religious scholars, the religious professionals. They miss it. There's the people that hung out with Jesus as he was growing up. They missed it too. And what they said was, that's just Joseph's boy. And they demoted him a couple of pegs from where he should be. He's just good for some areas of my life. He's just Joseph's boy. And then the next chapter is all about Jesus recognizing people and pulling people out of a crowd and saying, hey, Peter, you suck as a fisherman, but come follow me. Hey, Levi, you're a useless bloke. You're a tax collector. You've abandoned your people and your principles, but do you know what? Come follow me anyway. Hey, guy being dropped through the roof because your mates think that maybe if you can get close enough to me, I can heal you. Jesus says, come follow me. Your sins are forgiven, your disability is gone, and he heals the guy. Anyway, so we picked up at the end of Luke chapter 5, and I want to read this, and this is a really key story to why St. Mark's is like it is and what we do and why we keep on going. So we meet this guy Levi, okay? Right at the end of Luke chapter 5. We started to read this story last week, but we didn't focus it on it. I'm going to take about 3 minutes to focus on it. After he'd done all the other stuff that I just mentioned, Jesus went out of the building and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi. He's going to go on to invent genes later in life. And he was sitting at his tax booth. Follow me, Jesus said to him. And Levi got up, left everything, and followed him. Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house. A large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. But the Pharisees, the religious nutjobs, and the teachers of the law, the religious professionals, who belonged to their sect, complained to his disciples, to Jesus' disciples. They said, why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners? Jesus answered them, and he said, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but to call sinners to repentance. It's a bizarre story, right? First thing, when Jesus calls you, as he did to Levi, Levi's response is a fantastic one. He throws a party, he throws a banquet, he puts a big long table down the middle of the room and he fills it with food and fruit and grapes and I don't know what else do you have at a banquet, wine and Schlur was on a 2-for-1 deal. It was probably around Christmas time. So he has this huge banquet. That's a great response to Jesus. If you're ever wondering what is a kingdom thing to do, what's a Jesus thing to do, the answer is usually throw a party and invite a whole load of people to it, which is exactly what Levi does. He doesn't know what he's signed up for yet. He's only been in the gang a couple of minutes, but he throws a party. Jesus goes to the party, and so do a whole load of other people. Some of them because they're invited, some of them because they're nosy, some of them because they just want a free meal. And then, having seen all the other stuff, go back and read Luke chapters 3, 4 and 5. Having seen all the other stuff, having seen healings, having seen whole towns shut down to come and listen to Jesus, having had Jesus in the temple causing a little bit of a stink and in the synagogue causing a little bit of a ruckus, none of that gets the religious nutjobs as wound up as when he goes to a party. That's when they really start to up the ante. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Jesus is a banquet guy? We didn't expect that. We didn't expect him to be a party person. We didn't expect him to be, somebody who enjoyed life. We expected him to take it way more seriously than that. We expected him to take his religion more seriously, to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. We expected him to be a bit of a party pooper, not a party attender, not a party starter. And so they go up to Jesus' disciples and they're like, hey, why are you mingling with all these people who aren't like you? You want to be a religious guy and you're mixing with all these irreligious people. Why is that? You're not doing it right. And even though they've made this complaint to his disciples, Jesus knows his disciples. They've only been on board a couple of hours. They don't know the answer yet themselves. And so he dives in with the answer. But it's a weird answer because they're talking about food, they're talking about banquets, and he starts talking about medical professionals and doctors. And he says, I haven't come for the healthy, I've come for the sick. In other words, if you're a doctor and you only hang out with healthy people, you suck as a doctor. In fact, we probably couldn't even call you a doctor, because by nature a doctor has to hang out with sick people, because the balance of power is from the healthy doctor to the sick person, and the healthy doctor is going to make the sick person what? Healthy. The Pharisees and the scribes and the law keepers and the religious nutjobs, they struggle with this misconception and misunderstanding of life. And here it is, because we see it around us all the time today. That the other person is going to contaminate me if I allow them too close. If I allow these refugees into my country, they are going to contaminate me and my life and make it worse. If I allow that person with a different viewpoint, who votes differently, wears different team colours, who listens to different music, who has a different level of education or finance, or has all parts of their bodies pierced that I didn't think should be pierced, or doesn't have any piercings and I think they should, if they've got tattoos on their nose and their eyelids, whatever. The other person, if I allow the other person too close, they are going to contaminate me. They are contagious and they're going to ruin me and my lifestyle. And Jesus says, you've misunderstood. It doesn't happen that the darkness affects the light. It's always that the light affects the darkness. It doesn't matter how dark a room, you strike a tiny little match and the room changes. Later on in the Bible, other people have a conversation and they say, look, it doesn't matter how big the forest, you light a match in the wrong way and the whole forest is going down. It doesn't matter how big the ship, you just need a small rudder on the back and you can steer it. It doesn't matter how wild the horse, you can stick a small bit in its mouth and you can control it. Jesus says you have to understand that the contamination works the other way, the good way. It flows from Jesus and those who love him to the very edges of society, to the darkness, to the abusers, to the abused, to the young, to the old, to the black, to the white, to those who speak our language, to those who don't, to those who come from our custom, from those who have different customs, from those who know what our cuisine is, from those who don't know and have different cuisines that they bring to our shores. The point is, don't worry about the other coming in and ruining stuff. Worry about being a party person and invite as many people to the party as possible. That's why we bust a gut at Make Lunch. And I know it's hard work. I know some of us have to take holiday time. I know some of us are struggling to feed our own families. And we sit down every week and we're like, oh man, I've got to do the meal plan. I've got to work out my budget. And here we are spending money on other people's kids. And I can't afford to feed my own kids. I know all of that. And I know some of us wash 600 pots. And I know it's hard work. And I know it's stressful. But we're committed to it at St. Mark's. Why? Because we're party people. Because Jesus first invited us to a party. Here in Milton Keynes, last week, there's a council leader, a guy called Pete Marlin, and he tweeted, you can go on Twitter and you can see it, he tweeted a letter that someone had sent him, anonymously, no address, no signature, nobody had the balls to sign up to it. But the letter essentially said, I am glad that we no longer are accepting child refugees and unaccompanied minors into our country. We've got enough problems, we've got enough potholes, we've got enough issues that we need to face. I'm glad that we've stopped it, and I'm glad there's no more of them coming in and they signed off KKK rules. Gang, we're different. The point is, everybody who's afraid is going to tell you, you've got to hunker down, you've got to build a wall. Hey, you've got to make sure that nobody else gets in. You've got to make sure that nothing else changes, because that's going to be a threat. Jesus says, we're party people. We're banquet people. And we fill the table with love and joy and generosity and grace, and we put as many emergency chairs out as we can. And we get as many people around that table as we can. And we make sure the music is good and the food is good and the wine flows freely, because we are party people. That is a picture of the kingdom. So I want to encourage you, St. Mark's, as you go into this week, be party people wherever you are. Those of us who are tired from serving last week, may the Spirit of God fill you afresh with energy and vitality and enthusiasm for the party. Those of us who have hope and joy for tomorrow, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's going to get crazy the next couple of weeks. This week we've got a pancake party. The next week we're at churches on a Saturday night, and we're going to have a dedication and a farewell, and then we are all over the place. It's going to be tiring, just as it's tiring to serve at Make Lunch, just as it's tiring and sacrificial to keep giving to the church, just as it's tiring to think, oh, where's church this week? Is it on Saturday night or Sunday morning or Friday lunchtime or 6:30 on Wednesday morning? Don't worry, it won't ever be at 6:30 on a Wednesday morning. It's going to be tiring, but the point isn't ever about our comfort. We have the joy of the Lord in us, and then we throw a party. That's the whole reason for our existence, because Jesus first saw you, recognized you, and went, hey, you, come follow me. We'll figure the rest out as we go. And there'll be highs and lows, but I promise you, it'll be a party. Keep going, gang. Have a fantastic week. May God bless you with a brilliant knowledge of his presence wherever you are. Peace out.